Well, good morning, everyone. My intention was to go out and enjoy this beautiful weather again this morning, and it's much, much cooler here, so go and figure. But I'm thankful for it. I'm very thankful for it. Good sleeping weather for in the house, and you can open things up a little bit, and it's just another beautiful day, and it's just really cool weather for a walk. But the problem is I just can't keep my phone. I can keep my phone charged. It's just it takes a long, long time for it to get completely charged, and that kind of defeats the purpose of a walk and talk because I'll get cut off, or I'll have to like really hurry things up, and before I just run out of juice. So what I'll probably do is probably go for a walk here in a little bit after my phone is charged a little bit more and just leave my phone here, I guess, let it charge or whatnot. I don't know yet, but I just figured I would talk to you all in my kitchen here, and then what you're looking at here obviously is the Word of God. It's Exodus chapter 7, where that is the area of the Bible where the Lord begins to show Egypt that he means business. When he says, "Let my people go," that's exactly what he means. And where he gives Moses and Aaron charge and the authority and the ability to begin to smite the land with the plagues. So that pretty much begins in Exodus chapter 7. And the reason I open the word to that and I'm showing you all that is because this thing with the cows, just it's really intriguing to me for a few reasons. And I'm just gonna kind of give you all an honest assessment here on a lot of different things. I spent a lot of time yesterday on the phone. I mean, I made a lot of phone calls. I received phone calls. I spent a lot of time on the phone, which is fine. I mean, because I don't normally do that. Phone conversations can take a lot out of you after a period of time. It's Father's Day and everything, so I expected to receive phone calls, things of that nature. But um, it was interesting some of the conversations I had and people I had talked to and so forth. But the thing is, this cow thing, where these cows just suddenly died. Uh, I've looked into it a little bit. I've read some things. I've had some people contact me about it and give me their assessment and their opinions on it and so forth. It's very fascinating. I mean, because it's not so much the why or how, it's just the fact that it happened, you know, and then I reverted back to the plagues of Egypt, and I kind of mentioned it in brief the other day, but you know I'm just thinking about how the Lord is just trying to get this nation's attention in a lot of different ways. And I mean, and the fact that thousands of cows just all of a sudden drop dead. Now, I'm not saying that it's heat related, like I said. I mean, I don't know. Okay, I don't know. I think it's a combination of factors. The heat definitely doesn't help, but they could be poisoned. I mean, it could be a mixture of the feed and the heat, and it could be a lot of different things. The bottom line is, cows are dead. Okay, the bottom line is strange things are happening, and it's going to affect us all, and it already is. Certain people, certain areas, depending upon where they live, where you know, um, it's inexplicable. I mean, you just cannot explain these things. But the bottom line is, we lose our food sources. We lose our means to feed ourselves and to feed our families and whatnot. And people say, well, I could just go vegetarian. Well, yeah, that's true. But a lot of the food in the stores, if you can find it, it's rotten. I mean, you got to like really pick through your vegetables and your fruits. I mean, to make sure it's not bruised and rotted out, and you know, and I mean, you gotta like. I picked up some apples and I bite into an apple the other day, and I bit right into the bruised part of the apple. I was like, ugh, it's kind of mealy around that side. I'm like, ah. Then I go, and I start eating the other part of the apple. Like, okay, this is better. I mean, so I mean, you got to really pick and choose your fruits and vegetables now. I mean, and you got to comb through it all. Make sure that your lettuce isn't brown, and and whatever, the veggies aren't too soft, and everything. You just got to really comb through it all. You pick up a bag of oranges or clementines or what have you, and if you don't really inspect them, you start to open them up and they smell bad and they don't taste good. And it's like, man, what a waste of money, especially with as expensive as everything is now. So, I'm just thinking about these things, and I'm looking at what's happening out there in the stores, and then I'm watching videos from like Appalachian Homestead, which I do not know that lady, but I do know she lives close to me. I do know that. I may run into her sometime inadvertently. I'm not sure, but I do know that she lives close to me. The area she talks about, I'm very familiar with. I've been there myself, and uh, yeah, we definitely live close to each other. I'm not saying she lives in my town, but it's in the general vicinity. So anyway, I'm really listening to her. I think her name is Tara. I'm not exactly sure, but anyway, I'm really listening to her on Appalachian Homestead, and she put out a video that I just shared to my community page talking about the West Town Mall, which I have been to. Not impressed, really, to be honest with you. And it's talking about how these different stores are closed, and she thought it was because, that they don't have the staffing, and I agree. You know, um, you know, I'm sure other people see this in the workforce, and they see this, where in areas they live, or maybe they hear about it. But employers, you listen to Southern Prepper One and Popular Preparedness, and maybe even Pinball Preparedness, or whatever prepper channel you like, Off the Wall Prepper, what have you. But Southern Prepper One really does a very good job about it, I guess, because a lot of people are sending him emails all the time, and he's compiling this information that, employers cannot keep employees. People don't have commitment to the job for whatever reason. Maybe it's because they don't like it. Maybe it's because they're lazy. Maybe it's because they don't like the way they're treated. It could be a lot of different reasons. I mean, and I observe it a lot myself, working different areas, different jobs, and so forth. Since being in this area, I've observed it a lot myself. I mean, I've gotten used to it. I was talking to my son the other day. It's just like, I've been in the workforce for over a quarter of a century now, well over a quarter of a century, and I just, after a while, you see people that show up late to work, or they don't do a good job, they don't care, they don't put the effort in, and if they get canned or whatever, I used to be sympathetic to that. I mean, I was even in positions before where I had to fire people. I didn't like it, I didn't enjoy it, but at the same time, if you give them chance after chance after chance after chance, to do the right thing, to learn the job, to do what they're supposed to do, and they still insist on just doing whatever they want to do, well, you got to let them go after a period of time, and then on the other side of that coin is a lot of people, they'll come in for a few hours and they'll leave in the middle of a day. They'll leave at lunch, like, hey, where's such and such? Oh, they left. Okay, well, I guess we won't be seeing them again. And rarely does an employer bring them back. I mean, it happens, but it's rare because they're not showing commitment to the job, to learn the work. So, as I think about these things where, like she was talking about in the West Town Mall, a lot of stores were closed. And they even had different schedules. And I'm thinking, okay, it could be summer hours, but that doesn't make sense. They'd want to keep things open more because kids are out of school and stuff, people on vacations, and if they want to make a profit, they'd want to keep their stores open. As a matter of fact, I used to work mall security, and a lot of times they keep stores open till 10 o'clock at night instead of 9 o'clock at night. And she was totally right about what she said. If stores don't open at a certain time, because I always hated doing it, but one of the things about being, in mall security is I hated it. I really did. But you'd have to report to upper level management that a store didn't open on time or closed early or whatever, because it was all about money. It was all about retail and making money and making a profit. So she's right. It doesn't make sense for these stores to be closing, and unless they don't have employees. So on top of that, she was talking about reports that there could be a major issue with inflation rise, a huge rise in inflation in the next 13 days. And I'm looking into that and I'm thinking, wait a minute, I thought the Fed decision was to control the inflation. I thought that's what it was all about. I mean, I listened to that Jerome Powell, Gollum-looking dude, Schmiegel over there. I mean, I listened to him, talk and talk and talk about how the Fed's concerned about jobs and they want to keep people employed and blah 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 blah. I listened to all that garbage, and I'm just rambling on and on about that. I'm thinking, well, I thought this Fed decision of raising interest rates and so forth was supposed to be to control the inflation. We weren't supposed to have to be concerned about inflation anymore, right? Well, okay. So then why the concern about a possible rise in inflation in the next 13 days? And I started thinking about the 13 days. I started counting up, and I'm like, well, that brings you right to July 4th weekend. Well, that's pretty interesting. So everything that I observe when I'm at work and people I work around, the things I work around, and so forth. That's all I do in my life, and I observe. That's what I've been doing since, man, for let's see, over 20 years. Basically, it seems like it anyway, or about 20 years. I mean, observance has been a huge part of my life. Just observance, situational awareness, talking to people, listening to people. Trying to use wisdom and discernment and kind of coming to conclusions on things without scaring people to death, but at the same time trying to be as honest and truthful as I can about the times that we're in and the situations and so forth. And I gotta say that around the July 1st time frame, July 4th weekend, makes a whole lot of sense to me, logically, that we could be dealing with some major issues, not only economically, but with the phone calls that I received, made, so forth, text messages, people that I'm communicating with, and sending me all kinds of information and so forth. Without getting into specific dates, I will tell you that because the date itself is not important, but the time frame, I can tell you that all of these people are all seeing the same type of things within the same time frame. They may not agree completely on the specific dates, but that time frame of basically, what's today, 20th? Like the 22nd to around July 8th, 9th. Some people say around the 4th, whatever the case may be. But that time frame, that general time frame of the next, 14, 21 days, the people that I'm communicating with are talking to me, sending me information or whatever. They're in a lot of agreement that this is going to be a very, very significant time that we're in. Now for example, and there we're coming to, for example, the 24th, I guess, ends the planetary alignment to where it's complete. Okay, the planetary alignment is complete. And I said, I started thinking, I think about a lot of different things, and I started thinking about the movie Melancholia. And if people aren't familiar with that movie, it's kind of disturbing, okay? But it's interesting in the fact that this woman, basically, her played by Kirsten Dunst in the film, she, how do I say it? There's a planetary destruction coming to the Earth that they're watching. They're watching it from a distance. You know, whether you want to call it Planet X or Nibiru or whatever. But there is a something that is coming. And this woman, I'm not necessarily saying she has the power to stop it, but it kind of coincides with who she is. And she's in a very depressive state, hence the term melancholia, right? And she really shouldn't be, because she's getting married and supposedly getting her life started in this way, but she can't shake this feeling. She's in a depressive state. And it coincides with the planetary destruction. It's pretty fascinating. Like I said, disturbing, but fascinating. And I'm thinking about this, and I'm like, okay, the planetary alignment. Not saying that there's going to be massive destruction with the planetary alignment. I'm not saying that. I just kind of correlate these things in my mind, where I'm like, okay, I got you. This is just how I think. And like I said, I'm not saying one thing has to do with the other. It just reminds me of things. And then as I'm talking to a particular friend yesterday, they had mentioned in their video that, and I said, I'm not going to mention names and channels and all this stuff, because I am tired of the heat regarding it. When things don't come to pass the way people think they should or say they should, and then they want to say, well, you said this and you said, I didn't say jack, okay? All I'm saying, all I'm saying is, information gets sent to me, okay? People talk to me. They share videos on their channels, and they talk about what they talk about, what they believe that the Lord has revealed to them, or what their research has led them to. I find it fascinating. And because I think that there could be some validity to it, I share it. But then it's up to other people to do their own homework and research to decide, okay, is this something I need to be concerned about? Or can I just completely dismiss and ignore this? See, that's where people have to go to the Holy Spirit for themselves. They have to go to the Word, they have to read, they have to study, they have to research. Like the Word says, study to show yourself approved, a workman that needs not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. So you have to take it to the Lord yourself. You have to do your own homework and research. Prophets and watchmen of God, messengers of God, can lead you in a certain direction. Now, if people want to be, really straightforward with, a prophet can never be wrong, and if they are, stone them to death. Okay, that's your business. If you want to do that, that's fine. Okay? Most people I know and I communicate with me, they do not call themselves, nor do they consider themselves a prophet. They may put out information, and they may be very, very sure of what they've discovered, what they believe has been revealed to them, but none of them, even if someone says, I'm 99.9999999% sure, is that 100%? No, it's not. I mean, come on now. It's not. Or people want to say, certain people want to say, well, they prophesied this and they said that this was going to happen on this date at this time, and it didn't, so they're a false prophet. A false prophet is someone that is intending to deceive you for their own benefit and purposes. They are a con. They are a charlatan. They are someone that wants to hurt others. They have a desire to hurt others because they get off on it, because it's how they get their kicks. And then they deceive people into giving them money for their so-called prophecies, and And then they will tell people, that, well, if you don't, give me this money or whatever, God will punish you, or you won't get blessed, or, you must give to my ministry, or you must give to me because I am a true messenger of the Most High God. I don't know anybody that I associate with or that associates with me that is like that. Because if they were, I would have absolutely nothing to do with them and I would call them out. But I don't know of anyone like that personally in my life. So, what I know of is I know of researchers, I know of people that look at all different angles and they come to conclusions and then they feel led or compelled to share those conclusions. And that has nothing to do with me or anybody else. That's something that they decide to do on their own, basically because they feel the Lord is leading them or telling them to do that. So, this particular person that I was talking to, they were talking to me about the year 2022 and how the number 210 equaled 2022. And as I'm listening to their video prior to talking to them, I mentioned to them, okay, this is what came to my mind when you mentioned, 210. This is what immediately came to my mind, and the year 2022 being the same thing. And I said, because I believed for a long time that everything would start in 2022. And I'll get to that in a minute. But I said, the movie 2010 A Space Odyssey, because that has 210 in it. And not 2001, but if people recall, there was a sequel made that was years later with, I think, Roy Scheider and John Lithgow in it. Roy Scheider's gone. He's been gone for years. John Lithgow, I think, is still alive. But anyway, the movie 2010 A Space Odyssey. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, this is interesting to me. Because that's how I correlate things. Like the newest Jurassic Park film, the Jurassic World Dominion. I saw that not long ago, and I was just kind of blown away as to how they just threw it all in our face, and they talked about everything that was considered conspiracy theory and people got disparaged for, and they wanted to lock people up for and consider them a domestic terrorist and everything else. They put it in this movie, folks. They put it in this movie. Anything that you could think of that was considered conspiracy theory or just so outlandish that you couldn't even talk about, it's in that movie. All right. Now, I thought that the Batman movie was going to be the most prophetic film prior to major judgment beginning, specifically in the United States, but even on the earth, but specifically the United States. That's what I thought, because I thought that movie put everything out there too. I mean, everything that we've talked about, mentioned, prayed about, watched videos about, learned about over the last several years. I was wrong. It's Jurassic Park World. It's Jurassic World Dominion. I was wrong. The Batman, don't get me wrong, is an incredibly prophetic film. But Jurassic World Dominion, it's almost like, okay, everything that you thought was a lie or you thought was conspiracy theory, actually, all these crazy people, they were right. We're throwing it in this movie and we're telling you about it now. But guess what? It's too late. It's too late. You should have listened to these crackpots years ago. These people that you thought were crazy Christian morons years ago, but you didn't. And now it's too late for you. And the reason I say that, for not everybody, for a lot of people, and Mike Adams kind of referred to this too. He goes, it's too late for people to be red-pilled, referring to the Matrix and so forth. You take the blue pill, the red pill. It's mostly too late for people to be red-pilled now. They've already decided in their minds that this is what they believe, and this is the way things are going to be, and this is how it's going to happen, and this is my plan, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, whatever, and this is how it's going to go, and nothing's going to change that, and that's just the way it is. And I know people like this personally, you know, and they're finding out that's not the case. That is not the case. That things change, and our plans don't mean a hill of beans compared to what the Lord God Almighty's plans are, and what He wants to do, and how He wants to do it. Our plans are just simply plans. I know people that have invested their whole life in a plan. You know, they banked on everything on their plan, and it's not coming about the way that they thought or hoped it would. Just like Betty Stevens said a long time ago, you know, she said things are not going to happen the way people think they're going to happen. They're just not, and she was right. I mean, it's not happening the way people thought it was going to happen. It just isn't. And at least not yet. And I know people that have been waiting 20 plus years for plans to come to fruition, for the plans that they've made in their life, for them to see the fruit of their labor, so to speak. Maybe not 20, but close, real close. And it's just not happening. And I think to myself, man, did they waste their life waiting on this? I mean, what more could they, what else could they have done? What else should they have done? You know, wow. I hope they didn't, but if they did, they can't get those years back. They're gone. So, anyway, getting back to the 2022 thing, I've believed in for years now that 2022 would be the year that everything would start to come about. I mentioned it in the interview that I gave months ago on extension13.com with Kim Gandy and Everett Themer and so forth. And it's basically stemmed from the video that was made in June of 2015 from the Prophecy Club, actually, called 2014 to 2021, Two Cows and 13 Modern Day Prophecies, or something of that nature. You can research it, look for it on YouTube if you want. I own the DVD. Actually, I owned a few copies. I gave them away years ago because I was so convinced that people needed to be aware of that time frame, and they need to be, focused on, this is what I believe when you compile a lot of prophecies and what people that have had dreams and visions regarding that, they all came together, and it was a compilation. I believe that a lot of that was true. Maybe not all of it, and it maybe didn't fit completely into the time frame of the 2014 to 2021 and then 2022 to 2028, which we have not seen yet. Obviously, we're only in 2022. But I believed that this made a whole lot of sense to me. And amazingly enough, we're seeing all the death of these cows now, the cattle being destroyed. And you'll probably hear more about it. I mean, they've culled the chickens, they're destroying the cattle. You're starting to see a pattern here. I mean, what's next? Goats, lambs, sheep? I don't know. But, you're starting to see a pattern here. But the thing that I find amazing about that video is the fact that it stemmed from these cows that were born in September of 2014. The fatted cow and the lean cow kind of thing. And it all goes back to the cows. And it also, I think it's a representation of Genesis, is it 41 or 49? Can't remember exactly. I think it's 41, not sure. Don't quote me on that. People can research themselves, where the Pharaoh has the dream of the two cows, the fat cow, the lean cow, and so forth. Joseph interprets the dream of, okay, you're going to have 7 years of plenty and 7 years of famine. Okay. Well, if you look from 2014 to 2021, it seemed like that was our 7 years of plenty. Okay? We had more than enough. And that was the time that people had, just like the time of Egypt and during Joseph's time, to store up, to stock up, to prep, to plan, to get everything they needed to get at decent prices, at sale prices, or whatever else. And then 2022 arrived. And yeah, there were still some sales here and there. And you could still buy some things. You could still find some things. So people would argue and say, well, this isn't the famine. We still are able to get things. Yeah, but not like you could before. And it's not as good of quality, and it's much higher in price. And like I said, you go to the grocery stores, you got to really research and comb through things and try to find the best stuff that isn't stale, that isn't, molded, that isn't rotted, that isn't bruised and soft and everything else. I bought some bread the other day. It molded immediately. So if you don't freeze your bread, it's going to mold on you. It's just crazy. I was like, oh, you gotta be kidding me, man. I just bought this. It wasn't in there that long. It doesn't have to be, folks. They're selling us garbage, all right? And 2022 is here now, obviously. And there have been prophecies that the second half of 2022 is when it really begins. Well, guess what? We're in the second half of 2022. We're in June now. That's the second half of the year, right? February, March, April, May, June. Yes. And we're about halfway through June, so 6 months into the year. And the second half of the year is when things really, really heat up. Well, that's where we are now. And what are we seeing? Okay? Now, whether people believe that, we're going to be raptured out of here anytime real soon or not, whatever your belief is on that, just hear me out on this, okay? If that is true, and you have the 7 years of plenty and the 7 years of famine, then 2014 to 2021 was that 7 years of plenty represented by the fatted calf, okay? Whereas 2022 in the next 7 years would represent the famine, which, does that represent great tribulation? I think so. I truly do. Now, some people say, well, that's not going to happen until September. Okay, fine. Or this isn't going to happen in September. Fine. September is right around the corner. September's 3 months away. Less. It's not that far. So even if that is the case, and say we get a break, which I don't think we will in any way, but say we do, we still got September, right? And why is September so significant? Well, not only the fall, market crash, blah, 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 historically, but it's, Shemitah, people want to look at that, and all of these things seem the beginning of the new year, on the Jewish calendar. All of these things seem to culminate in September, 9/11, on and on and on and it goes. September 23rd, the whole Revelation 12 sign, the Pope and Obama meeting years ago, and on and on and on it goes, right? So September is always very significant, that September-October time frame. So that's coming up real quick as well. So I'm seeing all of this come together, and I'm listening to what people are saying, I'm seeing their videos, and they're sending me all kinds of research and all kinds of, and I get all kinds of stuff. And I got to comb through it and filter through it, and I don't have to, but if it's interesting to me, and it makes me curious, and I'm curious as to see as to excuse me, what this person is saying in comparison to what that person is saying, because what's really fascinating to me is none of these people know each other, and if they do, they're not letting me in on their secret. Okay, I don't think they do. I think they know who each other is by name or something, but I don't think any of them communicate with each other. So I find that pretty fascinating as well. The one thing they all have in common is they know who I am, even though none of them have met me personally. I've had phone conversations with them and so forth. Like I said the other day, I meet very few people personally. A lot of times that's location, a lot of times it's choice, But I don't, I don't. Very few people have I met personally, but I do talk to people on the phone and whatnot, and get information that way, and text, email, and whatnot. But anyway, um, the thing is that none of these people seem to know each other, but they're all coming to the same conclusion, and they live all throughout the United States. I mean, it's like what you got: Tennessee, Virginia, Colorado, Canada. Oh man, I think I hit them all. Yeah, I think I did. But anyway, just throughout the U.S., California, throughout the U.S., um, and they all are coming to the same conclusion, same time frame. So this is getting really long, so I'm going to cut it off here in a few minutes. This is just an honest assessment, just kind of compiling it all into everything that I'm seeing now and everything that I'm hearing about and but people are talking about and revealing to me, sharing with me, and I'm just kind of putting it all out there as the time frame that we're in now, the things that I believe are coming within maybe even these next 2 weeks. It appears. I said I know people that are watching real hard from like the 22nd, 23rd, 24th time frame, and then some, and then at least one isn't, really paying too much attention to around like the 24th to the 28th, and then, 28th, 29th, and then, beyond that into like past July 4th, July 8th, 9th time frame. So the bottom line is that next 14 to 21 days, I guess, or 20 days, whatever it is, pretty significant. Pretty significant. And by significant, I mean shocking, uh, horrible, catastrophic, destructive things that most people will not expect. Um, and it's going to disrupt people's lives. And like I've always said, I continue to say, July 4th weekend coming up soon. If people are going to travel, if they're going to do whatever it is they're going to do, pack like you can't return. You may not be able to. I'm just saying. Even if it's before July 4th, pack like you can't return. You may not be able to. Um, be ready, as much as you can be. Think about, what you're going to need on a trip. And if you can't get the gas, or you can't get to the store, or you can't get the things that you need, or what have you, my advice for what it's worth, stay put. Unless you really feel led to go to a certain area, to travel, to visit someone, to go somewhere or whatever, and really pray about this, even fast about it. If you really feel led by the Holy Spirit to go certain places and see people or do, great, fine, wonderful. But really know before you go. Really be sure of that. Because you don't want to get stuck in a situation you can't get out of. You don't want to be a burden on extended family members or friends or whatever, because they may have enough for their family. They may have enough for, for what they're preparing for, but they may not have enough for an extended visit or extended stay from other people. So think about that when you pack, and before you go, and just make sure that you're as ready as you possibly can be. Even when it comes to going up and down the interstate, because I have to travel the interstate a lot, during the week. And it's just like, I'm always thinking to myself, okay, do I have this? Do I have that? Do I have enough gas? What if something goes down while I'm at work and I can't get home? And And it's not, people say, well, you're crazy. That's paranoid, you know? I call it preparation. You call it paranoia. I call it preparation. I call it situational awareness, being observant of your surroundings, being aware of what could possibly happen. And you want to be as prepared as you can. And yes, faith is a huge part of that, obviously. But you got to do your part. You know, the Lord gives us a brain. He expects us to be obedient to Him. He expects us to follow His laws, you know, and to do what He tells us to do. But there's a reason He gives us a brain to, you know, think and plan ahead and to, you know, and to anticipate things that could happen. And you don't want to be caught off guard. You want to make sure that you have what you need. Because if it's left at home, it's not doing you any good. If it's left on the table at your house, it's not doing you any good. You know, you think about what you need and prepare that way. That's my advice. So, all right, this is way too long. It's over 40 minutes now, but I just wanted to put it out there as an honest assessment of everything that I'm seeing now and hearing about, and kind of clearing the air on a lot of this stuff, and take it for what it's worth. You know, I reiterate once again, I'm not a prophet. You can call me a watchman, I guess, if you want to. I don't know. I mean, from that aspect, yeah, I watch, I observe, I'm aware. You know, security officer, law enforcement training, medical training makes me aware. It's just who I am. It's a part of who I am, you know, and paying attention to my surroundings and the things that are going on. But I'm just a, you know, just a dude that just a guy that just pays attention, and I just try to share with everyone what I believe could be occurring soon, and what they need to be aware of or might want to be aware of. And a big part of that is because the more people that are ready and prepared and are aware, the easier it's going to be on everybody else. There's going to be a lot of panic and fear and chaos, but you don't have to be a part of it, is what I'm saying. If you are preparing and preparing yourself, your family, people that will listen to you, and thinking about anticipating what could happen, you don't have to be a part of that chaos. At least not as much. Just be very wise. Wise about where you live. Wise about whether you should live there, you should stay there. Just be wise, be smart, and make good choices. All right, that's all I have to say. I hope you guys have a good and blessed day. I'm going to get out now, and I'm going to go for a walk. I'll review this, and then I'll upload it, and go from there. Because it's a beautiful day here. I'm going to get out before it gets too hot. It's already warming up quick. I don't know if we're in that heat wave that my friend is researching now or not. I think we are. And if we are, I know it's still cool in certain areas like Rhode Island. Somebody commented about that. It was like 61 degrees there. Canada's still kind of cool. So obviously, you know, those places are further up north. But for the majority of the U.S., I think we're in that heat wave. And if my researcher friend is correct about that, look out, folks, because it's not going away. And it appears that 2022 may be that year. And we're in it. All right, that's it. Take care. Bye-bye.